Well, folks, we made it. I expect most of you probably been waiting on this video. This is my chop class, Davis House of Style chop class with Joel Davis at Chemeketa Community College, where we'll be chopping a 1949 Mercury. This is me walking into class. You can see the Merc right through the window there. This is day one, Friday, and man, oh man, does this place have a magnificent shop. I can tell you one thing for sure. You guys are not going to want to miss this one. Let's get into it. My buddy Scott up in Washington with the Field of Dreams. You've probably seen that video with the huge collection of cars. He put me onto this class. He and Ellie will both be attending it together. And I'll tell you what, whether you know a whole lot about shaping metal or whether you're real new to it, there's a lot to be learned here. You know, there's a lot you can pick up on. You just got to open your ears and open your eyes. And there's lessons around every corner. I'll tell you one thing, I learned as much from the other participants in this class as I did from the instruction, and the instruction was great.
Second thing is we're going to want to take the seats out, set them aside, take the carpet out, and then take all the stainless and different things out. So you have these clips on the stainless. Most of them have clips, and you just be real gentle about getting those out. You take these divider bars out. There's a little screw right up in here. That's the last screw. So we want to get those out of there. Get the stainless out of here. We want to pop this side stainless off, and I believe this stuff should just pop off. We'll let sometimes comes up easier from the bottom and pops up. So we'll want to get all of that stuff off of here so we don't mess it up later on. And yeah, just a little neoprene pry bar or something like that should be fine. So before we do any of that though, one of my favorite things to do is everybody gets out their favorite hammer, and then we just introduce ourselves and explain why our favorite hammer is our favorite hammer. So there's going to be all sorts of weird stuff going on this weekend, and you'll get into it eventually maybe. So yeah, it's a fun time. I try and make the class as fun as I can. It's pretty laid back. You don't see me in a lab coat and Ron Cavell style. It's a hands-on class. As much as you want to take away from the weekend, not literally, leave things here, but as much as you want to learn in the weekend, you can, right? And so, if you have questions, ask them. If I don't know the answer, there's a good chance that somebody else in the class does. You're going to learn as much from everybody else as you do from me, most likely. And there's always new tips and tricks and ways to do things that I learn something every weekend. It's like the 4th or 5th or something chop class that I've done. I've been doing it for a long time. How many guys have been, just wondering, how many guys have been following me for a while and wanted to come to a chop class for a while? All right, and then some of you guys just saw the ad and was like, hell yes, right? Yeah. So I say, hey, I'm a grown-ass man, and I know how to run power tools, and I'm going to watch for the person next to me and all that stuff, and we're all responsible for ourselves and our neighbor, right? And so if you see somebody doing something wrong, like the cutoff wheel, if it's spinning this way, which way are we cutting? This way, right? Like a burnout, okay? So you don't want to be dragging it against its grain and all that sort of thing. If it goes chunk to chunk, that's not a good sign, right? And so you know, just tap somebody on their shoulder and say, whoa, you know, we could be doing this a little bit safer, right? And kind of, I've never had an accident, knock on metal, but, you know, but I believe that watching out for each other's safety is just as important as watching out for your own. So, you know, it's always a good idea, yeah.
Well, the first order of business was for us to tear the car down. Now, it was supposed to be kind of ready to go when we got started, but it wasn't quite ready. So we had to yank out the front seat. We had to pull off a whole bunch of trim. We had to do some grinding. I had to pull the sill plates there, tape off the dash, pull all the headliner bows, number all these parts, number them how they come out. And yeah, we had to get it all vacuumed out and cleaned up and ready to go, grind some paint off of some areas, and then we were finally kind of getting ready to chop the car.
Across here and then move that forward, and then you can put a straight piece in here, right? Instead of cutting along the corner and putting a curved corner piece in there, it's a lot more difficult. So you can use, just think on kind of a plane, each plane, and how you can make things simpler for yourself. So yeah, anything else about bad chops that you see that, you know, what direction should a chop look good from? All of them, exactly. Not just cutting through the brace itself. Always label what you're doing there, right? So we're going to cut that brace out, and all right, and then we have to cut, we're going to cut this all the way through here so we've got some mobility with the back window back here. Okay? We want to keep the package tray and everything intact with the bracing and all of that stuff. One thing that you have to keep in mind with different cars is they're built differently, right? You've got different bracing, the trunk hinges are different, say on a 49 Ford versus a 51 Ford. The 51's got the big boxes, the hidden hinges. A 49 has the external hinges and like minimal bracing underneath there. So you're always thinking about how to avoid messing up any like trunk hinge bracing or anything like that. You know, on a 49 to 52 Chevy, you can cut across here and not hit any of the trunk bracing, and you can move all this stuff around and just cover it back up again, right? As long as you keep your package tray solid right where it was. So that's an important thing. Your package tray is a big piece of your inner structure. And, you know, you want to keep your door opening and your back door, your quarter window opening all in proportion and looking right. You don't want it to look like a turret top. You don't want, you know, there's a lot of stuff you don't want. And so you have to learn how to avoid that, and that's why you guys are here. Yeah. Yep, exactly. So you're cutting all of that material out in a big pie cut. Yeah.
I talked about bringing that dinner in as well. Yeah. I brought my tripod to get like another angle of it, and he was saying he just had to play with you at the end. Yeah. So I just wanted to touch base with you a little bit. I got two different angles.
Yep. Yeah, that's just fine.
Two different angles of it.
way, and I'll explain why. Oh, I'll start over. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, usually I get rid of it. I mean, I keep the drip rail, right? Usually I keep the drip rail because, as I said before, it's a baseline for the chop. Your eyeball doesn't realize it, but your brain does, that it's kind of a baseline for the chop. And so you've got the drip rail, the actual window shape, and the roof line, right? So usually I try and keep it. If I'm you know, on a regular two-door where the drip rail is nice and swoopy, on a shoebox Ford or whatever, I like to keep that drip rail for the most part, unless I'm going for like a real early 50s custom style, when that's what they did, is they just shaved everything super smooth. So on like a 46 to 48 Ford, they've got kind of a funky hump back here, right? On the long door coupes and all of that. So I get rid of the drip rail because it causes problems visually when you're chopping a top. Right? And so you can always add a drip rail back if you want by using a little, you know, 1/4 inch round rod or something like that, and then filling it in. And you've got like what kind of looks like a 36 Ford sort of, you know, drip, right? And that can be just fine and dandy, and you can mold it in, have a beautiful little transition right into this corner or whatever. You know, I'm cutting your drip rail off. Yeah.
It's gonna be a California car.
Yeah. Each corner of the roof, and long arms, Chris, Paul, yeah, you guys can be in the front or whatever on that other side, so you can kind of reach around, and we're gonna reach around. And we're gonna end up
It's a whole different kind of party.
putting it on the sawhorse. We got everything kind of almost cut. There's a few little cuts that we got to make right here to be able to get the roof off. So we can cut across here and then down in this corner. Find out the spots. Looks like maybe a spot or two maybe on the other side. And then we're going to cut on the top line here, right here. There you go. He must have been a lumberjack. He knows how that works. So, all right, go ahead, take the roof off. Raise the roof. There we go. Coming over? Perfect. Wow.
Just lucky.
Tops off. How I do this for setting up the roof and all of that is we're going to move the roof to one side, this driver's side, and I call it working the corners, okay? Not that kind of working the corners, but working the corners. It's easy to remember.
No judgment, no judgment.
Yeah. Yeah, for 150 bucks, I'll show you how I work the corners. Anyways, so you always think about what's the most visible, most important corner, right? And it's this one and this one. You know, when you got a drip rail, that's real obvious. You want your drip rail to line up. And so if you've got to do some splicing and dicing to get some things really perfect, that's just how it goes. But we're going to work these corners and get the pinch weld in this corner lined up, and then we're going to click this and get it right where it needs to be in order to match up to that other side. And then we push the roof over or whatever and do this adjustment and do our triangulating and make sure that everything's cool. And then we end up tacking these bottom corners. You dig? There we go. Go gadget arms. There we go. Alright. And then you guys just hold on to it. Now this is going to get tucked in here for right now, out of the way, right? If we can. If it's got to go way in here, that's fine too. But the idea is to get this right where we want it, right here.
Just like that.
Just like that, just over just a hair though. Yeah, right there, okay? So,
Look at the light! They'd like to see it.
Joel, ready?
Yeah.
Just a minute.
Watch for the flash.
Now what's your question about?
Putting the fillers in?
Yeah, not yet.
Okay.
Just a sec. So I want to do this. Let's, I need a hammer and a dolly real quick.
That looks pretty cool, dude.
It's getting there. So, okay. So I'm going to look at this corner too and tack that corner in. And then that's pretty much all I'm worried about. One more here.
I'll tell you what, by the end of day one, we had that roof off, back on. We were all seeing the profile a little bit, where we were headed. And we were all tickled as all get out. Man, we were excited for day two. Day one was a success. Rolling into day two, we did things a little different. We kicked it off with an English wheel demonstration. And Joel did a pretty good job with it, so I thought you guys might want to check it out.
So I'm going to go in the spiral pattern through here, all right? And some people do stars and stuff like that. Some people, you know, I don't know. I think that the real important part is that you end up kind of with a disc shape. So, and that everything's kind of even through there. You see, we got like this tortilla thing happening on right here, or whatever that is. I'm not real great on my Mexican food, but just go right through the center of those. Tostada, that's what I was going for. So, go right through the center of those, kind of split them in half. Now, what we don't want is we don't want it to end up just being a big U shape, right? So the goal of this exercise, this is just English Wheel 101. And Greg, you get to do one of these too. So it's English Wheel 101, and the object of the game is to get the circle all touching the table, right? So everything's nice and even, and you've got a nice thing. You can take it home to your wife and say, "Look what I made," and she'll go, "That's nice, honey." So, so the object of the game is just to try and get it as even and concentric or whatever is possible here. So I'm going to do this and just go right around that edge a little bit more. Get a couple of those spots. If there's any spots that look too out of place or like there's not enough going on, right there. I think we're good. All right, now we're gonna go over here. Obviously, the more curve on the die, the more curve you're gonna end up with. We're gonna use kind of the middle of the road one. Thank you. And you want to keep these wheels real nice, and this helps. So that'll lock it down. No, should. Does it have to go all the way up? There we go. And bring that up. A lot of people ask me what, you know, how big of a wheel or how fancy of a wheel do I need? If you're at a school and you've got the right funding and you can get one of these big guys, or if you're going to be doing it all the time, this one's made in the USA, which is awesome, then go ahead and get one. If you're going to be doing 2 sail panels on the one car that you chopped, go find a used Harbor Freight one or something. Just make sure that you've got all the lower dies and stuff, right? So that's the important thing, is to make sure that you've got enough of that. Anyways, what you don't want to do is you don't want to go over the center over and over. So you don't want to go like this across the center over and over and over again. You'll end up with a little goose egg right there, right? So what you do want to do is go right through spots like that. You just spin it, go through right some of those spots and right off the edge. And that'll help smooth out a lot of that stuff. If you can't see or whatever, just get closer, get into the right angle, get on the right side of things to where you can see what's going on here. But you want to go right through where some of those highs and lows and stuff are, and that'll help get things where they need to go. Now, once you get it kind of close here, I do what's called race tracking, and you just kind of go around the edge. The English wheel is a tool that you just need to get the feel for. You can use some pressure on the metal that you're working with. Sometimes it's upward pressure, sometimes it's downward pressure, sometimes it's a little downward on both sides, just to get it where you want it. You want to get rid of that taco business by pushing just a little bit more on the opposite sides here and working across it. And keep going around the racetrack here. Now sometimes you lift up just a little bit, and that's going to actually bring some of those high spots and some of those things up just a little bit. You can adjust some of the edges with your fingers and thumbs and get closer to where you need to be on that. What you don't want to do at this point is turn it upside down and use it that way. It's not going to fix being overarched, right? You're going to create a nightmare for yourself. So don't be doing that. That's a no bueno. All right. So just for example, right? We got a little high spot here and a little bit over there. You can finesse the edges by working both sides. You can also run it through the English wheel a little bit more. And get it a little bit closer. There's a little bit less going on there, right? So the whole idea is to get all of these little dimples out, and I got a few of them that are real close to the edge. You want to get everything as smooth as possible. We can crank this up just a little bit more. You notice that I don't have the bottom anvil super tight to the top anvil. You shouldn't be struggling to work the sheet metal through there. If you can't get it back in there, then you've gone too far. You got to back this off. All right. So the other thing is when it's not in use, back off the bottom anvil so you don't create flat spots in the bottom anvils at all. So if it sits there for a while or whatever, with a lot of pressure, it'll sandwich itself. But you can crank it up for kind of the final step a little bit. But if you can't get your sheet metal back in there just by doing that, then it's too tight, right? But it does help for getting the those last little wrinkles and stuff out of there. And again, I'm trying not to go over the center too much. I try and go kind of next to center. And I'll show you here. Like if I'm going just an inch or so off center and I'll spin it like this, you want to use longer strokes here and get all the way across your panel generally too. You don't want to focus on a little area like this. You're going to cause little humps and stuff too. So another thing, when you get to this phase of smoothing things out here, you can tell it's getting shinier a little bit. From to clean this up, it's going to get a little bit shinier. I'm actually going to back it off just a hair and go over it again, and that'll get rid of some of the small little ridges and kind of polish it out. Yeah, it's a feel thing, and you can feel from the walnut stage to this stage, you can feel the progress, and you can feel everything getting smoother, and you can feel the highs and low spots. But getting a feel for the feel is part of the trick, right? So just something that you have to work on and kind of figure out how to work the metal to do that. So that's about good there, you know. I could finesse the edges just a little bit, and you know, that's about what it should feel like. So if you can't pick it up with gloves on, you know, you're doing all right. So there's a few little spots here where this was just a little bit high and whatever, but most of the edges, I mean, it's kind of tough to pick up with gloves on. I've got this one little edge over here that I can catch. So anyways, if you want to pass that around, you can pass it around, take a look at it. But yours should be that good or better, and you will be graded. Careful, because this roof angle is a little bit different than it used to be, right? So there is a little bit more back, and the angle changes, and some stuff changes. So we need to do a little fine tuning and test fitting and all of that stuff in here. Wait a minute. It's got angle. Yeah, all right. Yeah, you can go just a hair over on that side. I'll just pull it your way. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, now. Put in the center. Still not quite there, huh? Yeah. So I do a couple of reference points first, and we make the panel bigger than it needs to be by at least a ½ an inch around the whole edge. So then it's got room to grow, and you can always trim a little bit off if you need to, right? First thing to do is get rid of some of these walnuts, and just like we did on the other demonstration, I'm getting rid of walnuts, and you're keeping the panel where you want it. right?
Mike, what'd you think of the class? You enjoy it?
It was incredible.
What was your favorite part, favorite thing you learned in the whole class?
The favorite thing that I learned is to not be afraid to just start working and getting her done.
Get your hands dirty.
Yeah, get your hands dirty and don't be
mistakes.
afraid to make mistakes because you can fix them.
Absolutely. Think you'll do another class in the future?
Yes, I would.
Yeah. Good
Yeah,
deal.
I'm
Good deal.
really looking forward to it.
Think the car turned out pretty good?
Yes, it did. I like the transformation. Like it gives you doubts in the beginning. And it's so much
Scary.
to do. Yeah.
Comes apart
and then
and it's
it ends
scary.
up towards the end, how it came together was like, it was incredible. So I was really happy with that. And I was real happy with like the people. The people here in the class, everybody got along really
A lot of
well.
knowledge. It's not all new
and-
people to it. There's
yeah.
people that know stuff too.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I think I actually learned more from individual people than anything else in here.
Absolutely.
You know, and everybody was, real helpful, like able to give you knowledge, which was nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome learning experience. Well, hey man, it was a pleasure meeting you.
And thank you.
Absolutely. Alan, how'd you like the class?
I loved it.
Yeah.
It was great.
What was your favorite thing? What'd you learn?
The sail panels was my favorite, and the English wheel work.
Yeah.
I've got my own car, so I wanted to learn the sail panels to be able to do mine because that's going to be my headache and the hard part for it. So
Absolutely.
that's mainly the reason I took it, was to get that. The other stuff's interesting as well, but I've done that before working in the industry, so it wasn't really new and exciting, but yet still the techniques and stuff were there that was interesting to learn. So
Yeah, totally. There's definitely stuff I think even experienced techs can gain from this
for
class.
sure.
I mean,
Definitely. It's,
unless you've chopped 49 moves,
Yeah.
I mean, there's lessons to be learned. So and there
Yeah.
probably still are even still.
Yeah.
You're getting somebody else's take on it. So
Exactly, and this being a 4-door, it's a little different than the 2-door, so you're learning some techniques and some ideas that you wouldn't do in a normal one. So
are you
typical.
happy with the way it turned out?
I am.
3-inch chop. Would you do a 3-inch chop if it was your 4-door? Or
I might even do a 4 if it was mine, just
Yeah.
because I'm a little more radical and I'm a short
Plug your
guy.
ears,
So
Gary. Plug your ears.
yeah, it's but that's my taste, right? Everybody's got their own taste. This is a classic, clean.
Personalizing your car. That's what
Yeah.
hot rodding's all about.
You know, some people are along that thinking that, the make it look like it came from the factory that way without really knowing that it's chopped. And me, I'm like, I want to cut it down to where
the radical.
Yeah, I want it to look like I chopped the heck out of it, but
Totally.
that's my taste.
Different strokes, man.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, hey,
none of them are wrong.
It was a pleasure meeting you.
Pleasure meeting you. Nice
Pleasure
working with
on
you
it
too. It was
and,
great.
yeah, man.
It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah,
So I would
absolutely.
definitely recommend it to anybody that wants to take it, and
Same thing.
I would take it again too if it was the opportunity arose. So
Oh yeah. All right, guys. I'm here with Mr. Melty himself. What'd you think of the 18, 20 guys we had for the class?
Oh, they were
turn
great guys.
Yeah?
It's most of the time during the classes, we've got some folks that like to just observe, some folks that really want to get in and get dirty and get welding. And we had a good mix this time as well with the processes that we had on this car. I think that that everybody got what they came for in the class. So that's cool.
Are you happy with how this one turned out? I know you've chopped one of these before.
Yeah, we did
this.
We did this one a little bit differently by keeping this little hip here and reshaping the door. You know, the stock Mercury door has kind of a kick down here.
Yeah.
And we reshaped it to look more like a two-door sedan, and just kept that window long, and I really liked that.
Yeah.
I wanted to do something differently from the last time that I chopped the top, and this was good. In the next few days, I'm going to be doing a lot more fine tuning on here, and I'll send you some photos or something you can include at the end of the video. But yeah, that'll get all fine tuned and final welded and all of that across there and ground down, ready for body work.
Well, you don't want to make custom cars that all look the same, right?
No,
That's kind of the opposite of the idea.
That's not very custom.
Not unique or custom at all.
Yeah.
Well, awesome, man. Hey, I appreciate it. And why don't you give a shout out for where guys can find out about your classes coming up if they want to sign up?
Sounds good. Yeah, go to chopclass.com. You'll see a list of chop classes into next spring. I'll be in Texas and Florida, and I've got a couple classes at my own shop in Missouri also, and about every 2 to 3 months I'm scheduling another class. If you'd like a chop class at your shop, or if you've got a car that you'd like chopped, go ahead and hit me up on the Facebook page. It's Chop Class with Joel Davis, and we'll try and get something scheduled.
Yeah, awesome.
Thank you so much, Oliver. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All right, this is the Oregon Chop Class car, 49 Mercury 4-door sedan that we did over the weekend, and with 2 days of working on it after class. It's looking pretty darn sweet. We got the door tops and the flow pretty good on it, and I'll talk to you a little bit more about it in just a second. Hello, I'm Mr. Melty. As you can see here, we've got this 4-door chop, and we added new sail panels after we flowed out the roof, laid the back window down, and changed the whole shape of these quarter windows so they didn't have that goofy hump in them. In the last couple days, we've been adding to the top of the body here and getting, since we shaved the drip rails, getting some of the body lined up, and what you end up doing is kind of taking 50% of that and 50% of the door top, so the door top doesn't look too thick and out of proportion. So we just added a little bit to the body there. So after a few days and after 3 full days, 12-hour days in class, this is what we've ended up with a 4-door chop, and it's much more complicated than a 2-door chop. A lot more work in this section, but it's worth it for this sort of body style. I want to reiterate that this is probably, even though it's been 5 days, it's probably gotten about 150 hours of man hours worth of metal work done in that 5 days. And so between instruction and doing some work after hours myself and with a couple of my helpers here, we've been able to get this much done. The more you work on it and the more you fine tune things, the nicer it's going to get. And chop tops are all about fine tuning and getting things right where you want them and making sure things are straight, gaps are good, all of that sort of thing. So it still needs a good solid 4 or 5 days worth of work to get everything just the way you want it, but it's come a long ways in the last couple days. If you can follow me, we'll go over to the other side and take a look. Now, over here we've got a slight dip in the body right in here, but the plan is to take a drip rail made of round rod here and go right along through there and swoop it out and then right into that body line. So you can kind of hit 2 birds with 1 stone. There's a little bit more adjustment in this door, which if you put it in about right there, that's where it should be. And then do a 1/4 inch round rod here, or a 3/8 inch round rod, and then kind of get the roof to slope out right to that. And so between that and a different drip rail that'll keep the rain out of your doors, and it'll give it a little styling aspect. As I teach in my class, the drip rail is part of the what draws your eye in on a chop and really helps this all flow right. We kept the door corners square here. We worked on the door gaps, added a round rod on the top of the door to smooth all that out, added a round rod on the top of this door to smooth that out. Again, we're splitting the difference between the door and the body. So you'll see how that fits much better than it did over the weekend. We got the tilt of the doors worked on a lot. Again, the more time you spend on it, the nicer it ends up being. So this was 49 Merc 4-door chop. Thanks to every participant in the class. If you want to know more, go to chopclass.com and see a chop class near you. Thanks for watching.
All in all, the class was a success. I think it was money well spent. This is my teardrop I rolled out on the wheel, and I had everybody in the class sign it. I had a real blast, though. It was fun. I learned a lot. Had a bunch of great relationships and experiences in there, and you know what? I really appreciate my buddy Scott for getting me on board, getting me to come out. So until next time, like, share, subscribe. I'll see you guys.